The president says we don't negotiate with terrorists. Did he forget about Bergdahl? With me now, member of the House Armed Services Committee, Congressman Trent. Good evening, Congressman. All right, let's talk about Bergdahl. This week, we find out that the Bergdahl swap for those 5 Taliban terrorist prisoners from Gitmo, he not only gave 1 for 5, but he also violated 2 laws.
Well, that's exactly right, Judge, and thank you for allowing me to be on your program here. The reality is that the GAO has now suggested very clearly that the president broke the law there. And the bigger issue from my perspective is that the administration seems to have this hallmark of being weak on terrorism in general, whether it's blaming the Benghazi issue on a video or giving money to the Palestinian Authority or pressuring Israelis to give back terrorists, or if it's to, perhaps the most dangerous example would be the idea of negotiating with Iran. You know, when the president came in, he said he would offer his hand to Iran. And now if you come to today's reality, the nation of Iran is now on the cusp of a nuclear weapons capability breakout. And that is something that the administration has stood by and allowed to happen. And if that occurs, it's groups like ISIS that may end up with access to nuclear weapons.
Well, I certainly hope not. But I want to talk about Peter Curtis. I mean, thank God he was released today. But he was held by al-Nusra, different from ISIS. And he was released with the help of the UN. And as I said in my open tonight, it had to be so heartbreaking for James Foley's mom and dad to hear about the European hostages who were released by ISIS. But we can't seem, the United States government, to get our own people back. Is Sotloff next?
Well, that's a very significant possibility. The reality is that the reason we have laws against, say, civilians in America paying money for their own family hostages that have been taken is because we know that when you pay money for hostages, that you only increase the chances that others will be taken. And I truly believe we're seeing that play out before us. And it is a tragedy that beggars my ability to articulate.
Well, but then what is your position then? You're on the Armed Services Committee. Do we get Steven Sotloff back? And I'm not even, Congressman, I'm not even going to go into the absurdity of this administration saying, oh, we tried, but we really couldn't get the guys back. I mean, yeah. but do we go in? Are we at war? Do you consider the United States at war with ISIS?
I think that, you know, Trotsky said, you may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you. And the terrorists are at war with the United States and everything that we believe in. And if we don't get with the program, they will make horrifying gains before we wake up. And this administration seems to be essentially asleep at the wheel. So yes, we are at war. We have been for a long time. This administration just doesn't realize it. And I would suggest to you that every element of any money or negotiating that we would make would be best put toward going after the terrorists and making it very clear that terrorists in the world, that if you take an American, we will hunt you down and we will kill you, and we will make it very clear that you don't take Americans for hostage.
All the time, Congressman. He's always like, we're going to get justice. Then he puts Eric Holder on it, as if it's a civil criminal case.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's another example. You know, he offered the terrorists some notion of having civilian trials. So everything it seems that he does, and I know that I'm an open critic of this president, but the reason being is that the evidence around us gives me no alternative. This president, if allowed to continue in the policy trend that he has been pursuing, I'm afraid we'll see America have some very significant consequences, even more than we've already seen in the not too distant future.
Oh, Congressman Trent, thanks so much for being